So you shared the learning velocity video with the team at Sora, and it sparked a bunch of ideas. Like, what came up?
Yes. So we have this concept or metric that we use at Sora that's called PACE. And it's a competency-based school. So everything's broken down into skills. So it's the number of skills divided by the number of weeks left to graduation.
Oh,
So students at the beginning of their journey decide like when they want to graduate, and then that sort of becomes their number for each week, how many
hmm,
skills they need to accomplish to keep that goal of graduating by that date. What we had before was this linear line. You have to do 5 stars a week, basically, skills to get to that graduation date. But then this whole idea sparked, if you another metric is, yeah, basically your learning velocity. Are you getting better at learning through Sora? One of the main goals, part of the mission, is to create lifelong learners. And
mm,
this concept of progressive independence, you're getting better at self-directed learning.
yeah,
So shouldn't it become more an exponential thing, a
sure,
graph, as you go through? At the beginning, it takes longer to master these skills because you're just figuring out how learning works for you and your
hmm,
processes and stuff. But then once you're a junior senior, you're getting closer to graduation, this pace, your stars per week, should be more exponential because you're learning a lot more. You've gotten into the groove of
sure,
things. You're more independent. You don't need to ask for help as much. You're just doing this. And also, just I think the awareness, giving it the name learning velocity is so cool, and that students can own that and know how that applies to other things in life and in career. Having that instead of something like pace, it feels very, this is what I have to do for school. I don't
sure.
necessarily see the connection outside.
I love this theme that I think I'm picking up on. Maybe explain what's going on with the learning design at Sora. So it seems like you have this thing called PACE. They set how many skills they want to learn in set time. And even when they graduate, walk me through the learning design. How do the students just arbitrarily pick this? Is it with experts? How does that go down?
I guess there's three main ways that you can get stars or skills at Sora, and it's all very designed with the individual. We do have these learning experts that it's co-designed with, but this is the whole idea
Mm,
of we're just two individuals working on this together. It's not necessarily, oh, I'm the teacher, I'm gonna design
sure.
the whole, or me, I'm a learning experience designer, I'm not gonna design the whole learning plan for a student from the first day until they
Yeah.
graduate. So it's very fluid, and we have cycles. So every month, a student chooses which expeditions they want to participate in, which are
Nice.
basically learning sprints or challenges. These are more led by the experts and designed by them, but just at the level of what skills are going to be developed and what's the guiding question. So, for
Hmm.
example, we just had a learning challenge that was, how might we design solutions to protect our cities from the rising sea levels?
Hmm.
So there's a lot of different math skills, science skills, the whole interdisciplinary thing involved with that.
Uh-huh.
But there's 4 of these different challenges on both the STEM side and the humanities side. So the whole thing is like autonomy and choice. So
Yeah.
whatever is sparking that student's motivation and interest in the moment, they can participate in that. So that's one way they can design what skills they'll get during that cycle. And
Hmm.
then they have these individual projects, which are more career oriented and totally free.
Hmm.
Students will work on baking or watercolors or an engineering project. It's super open just to see what they can do in this area over a 1 month period. And that's another thing that we're trying to work on with the progressive independence thing is, at the beginning, these are really short projects. And then, like, how can we capture that when they're ready to move on to longer projects, like when they've reached that learning velocity, to turn it up so now they can accomplish like a 10-week project. And then hopefully by the time they graduate, they're working on super long-term things. And then these, they can also tag to skills so that they can level up, and that can contribute to their pace as well. And then in this area, we also encourage them. We have this whole network that we're trying to build. We just have these 2 experts. Right now, our cohort is about 50 students,
Hmm.
but this is the whole idea of how can we scale this who is responsible for assessing and guiding the learning, because it's not realistic for these two experts to meet with all these students one-on-one every week to help them with their projects. So how can we empower students to meet with other students that are just a little further ahead of them to help them with their projects? And then also other people outside the Sora community. We have this growing advisor network that's basically how can we match all the students with their very niche, unique interests and academic needs beyond these two experts that we have inside our community. So if someone's interested in interior design or music production, how can we go and find someone to match them with on their project that can help answer those questions and play that learning guide role with them? So those are the two main ways students can design their own pathway and get skills along the way. We also have technology that helps with the nudging of, oh, you haven't worked on math in a while. But if it were totally up to students, this is the you don't know what you don't know kind of thing. So how can we remind them? And I think giving them that data just to be able to visualize where they are in these different subjects and where they need to be, it pretty much pushes them intrinsically to say, okay, if I have a goal to get here, I need to start working on some of these math skills. But it also involves a ton of the life skills that we focus on, procrastination and time management, so that they're not the week before graduation trying to get through 3 math subjects.
There's just so much going on here. And so as I'm hearing it, there's this thing pace or like some top level thing. And then underneath that, they're picking projects where they frame it in terms of their curiosity. And I love this because it's making it real world. Like that project you mentioned of how do we stop the floods? It's not, oh, here's abstract topic X, go learn some theory, which is tying together all of these different components there. Like you said, no one's just going hardcore STEM. They're also learning time management. There's some humanitarian stuff to think about and social sciences perhaps. And then the skills thing, like how are you defining a skill? What does that look like? How do they tell you what the skill is? How do you track that? Is time management a skill? And they can say that's something they want to go towards. And then the second follow-up question from that is, how do you give them the resources to learn that? Is that if it's only coming from 2 experts, or are they just Googling this stuff? Yeah, how does that work?
So the first question, skills. Right now we have about 275 in the system, and these have come from basic skills or things you need to know to graduate from high school. So we've taken all of those traditional subjects like math, physics, Spanish, and broken them down into their skill component parts. Like in physics, there's circular motion and forces and energy. And then each subject has different topics and skills beneath them. That's a hierarchy. And we have this custom dashboard that we've been building in Sora Home, which is essentially students can search and find these skills. And the cool thing I think is each skill has a why, which is basically, why is this important? Why am I learning this? Which is such a big thing in high school. I was always asking, how am I actually going to use this? So that's exactly what the why component does. And then basically mastery criteria. So giving students a guide of what mastery looks like for each of these skills. So what does we use 0 to 4, 0 being like no exposure, haven't even heard of this skill, to 4 being like I've done this world-class project, or I've taught someone else, I've guided someone to get to a level 2 or something in this skill. And we're trying to, the project we're working on now is defining each of those different levels so that students have a clear pathway. Right now it's subjective. The experts who are subject matter experts obviously can tell you, I know it when I see it, but how do we help others? This goes to that sort of teacherly authority thing. Like, how do I help another student understand when they've gotten to mastery in this? So really specific criteria that they can just check a box and say, yeah, I saw that. Then even like a mentor or someone in the industry that has never really taught, they're empowered to use this rubric essentially of criterion to say, oh yeah, they definitely did that. Because they have the subject matter expertise. They know engineering or art really well. Giving them that power to say, you know what you're looking for. Because mastery feels like a very, oh, I'm not a teacher, I don't know how to do that. But giving them those tools and resources to empower them to make those kinds of decisions. And then there was a last part of that question.
You were getting into it, which was the resources side of things. So they've got
Oh, yeah.
this skill, which is you guys are in the process of building the taxonomy and the map of what that actually looks like.
Exactly.
So how do they receive the curriculum or the materials? Is it just top down from a mentor, or yeah, how does that go?
So we have basic curriculum for the more self-directed subjects, like for math, for instance, Khan Academy, they're self-directed, working, using these resources on their own. And then we call them guides. So they'll come and meet. They're mostly working on their own, or they have math groups of students that are at a similar level, working on the same skills. And then they'll come together mostly just for accountability and in a tutoring capacity if they have questions. But it's also very bring your own sort of curriculum. So we have these skills that are pretty standard, like all the different publishers have their own names for them, but we help a little bit with that translation. And then they can come back and describe their experience or what they know to a guide or an expert, and that's how they would level up in the system. So some students come and they're using art of problem solving, or there's a bunch of different math curriculum that people come with. And then for projects, it is building that literacy of research and how to find these sources on your own. And that's also where I'm hoping this connecting matchmaking with other peers or other people in the community that have this niche expertise can help with connecting the resources. And I'm imagining a menu of different options. Outside community member that opts into our advisor network, they could offer to meet one-on-one with a student, to give feedback on their work, or just provide resources. There's some students that are really interested in like music production, like I said, or architecture, and we just don't have that expertise in-house. So it's how can we find this niche community on the internet that is already sharing all of these resources in their Slack community or Discord, whatever. How can we just connect students to that and help them sort of find the resources that way? Because it's already happening. It's just accessing that and bringing it in where we have those sort of gaps.
In some sense, lots of these schools like Sora are becoming meta schools. They can weave together different niche communities and support students in finding them instead of rebuilding everything from the ground up time and time again.